on YouTube.
Yeah.
Great.
Ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, and we are live. Hello, everyone, for our first meetup for 2021. Happy to go back. We have a lockdown here in Malaysia, but we're still surviving. That's why we can see new faces actually here with us today. Maybe they just plan to learn some AWS this year, or they just missed our faces. So my name is Mohammed. I'm a solution architect working with Astro at the moment, and I will be your host for today. And today, let me just share my screen very quickly. Give me 1 second. Okay, so today we have two awesome speakers. We have Abdullah. Abdullah, this is, I think, the second time he come. I think not last month. Before that, he just gave an awesome talk we all enjoyed. So Abdullah is working with Servicerocket, and actually Servicerocket is famous with their DevOps strong team. So he's here with us to give us about Amplify Admin UI, and we have as well Faz from AWS, where he will explain and show us how the new Cloud Shell works in AWS. So we'll start with Abdullah, and let's learn about this new thing that AWS recently announced about the Amplify Admin UI. So I will pass it to you, Abdullah, from here. And just before we start, please, like, if you are not talking on the mic, you can just mute yourself, leave your question in the comments, and Abdullah will pick this question after. And we have some AWS credits. Kaushik, do we have some credits for this month or no, right?
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Maybe,
so
maybe the next month we will announce it.
Correct.
Not for this
Okay,
one.
so for this month, we don't have any AWS credit, but usually we give some AWS credits for people who are answering question and active. So we will do it hopefully next month. We will go back giving some credits. So let's all welcome Abdullah, and I will pass it to you from here. Let me stop presenting. Let's just give Abdullah a few minutes to get ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My laptop just crashed for a minute. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. No worries. Just take your time. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
You see, these things always happen when you have a demo you want to present or any important presentation. Laptops start crashing.
Yeah, it's a heavy.
If you need sometimes, maybe we can, if you need like more than a few minutes, we can pass it to Faz, where he can like start his talk, then we go back to you.
If he is ready, that will be better, actually.
Okay, so Faz, do you think you can jump and present?
Yep, no worries. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Abdullah. Appreciate it.
Nice.
I shall return the favor soon. Awesome. Thanks, Mo. Appreciate it. And thanks, Kaushik, for having me today. Let me just quickly put my screen out a bit. So no announcements. I just get in, right? Directly to the talk.
Let me introduce you, actually. So for
Okay.
people who don't know, at least they know. Yeah, let me just share my screen. Okay. So we are happy to have Faz. So Faz is very popular actually in the IT community and development here in Malaysia. You can find him everywhere from GCP meetups to DevOps meetup. And now he's working with AWS. So he's joining us for the second time to give a talk. So please welcome Faz. And he's very helpful. If you have any question after the meetup, you can just message him as well. And I think he will be happy to answer you. So I will pass it to you from here, Faz.
Awesome. Thanks, Mo. Let me just share my screen quickly. Awesome. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in for AWS User Group's first meetup of 2021. Appreciate the organizers to have a meetup so early in the year. Most of the groups are still dormant. They're all thinking of starting after CNY. So it shows the dedication of the group over here. So thanks for that. Today we're going to be jumping into one of the announcements Kaushik had mentioned briefly last time. And this there's a lot of developer tools that were announced. And one of the things that we announced was something known as Cloud Shell. And I'll be diving a bit deep into some of that, show you a demo. And it's going to be a brief demo, so pretty straightforward. Whatever you can do on the CLI, if you had done it before, you can do it on this. And also, if you've never tried the CLI, I think this one actually push you a bit further into using the CLI versus the UI. So let me just click here and say, so I'm Faz. I'm a senior solutions architect at AWS. I currently work as a developer specialist architect. I work with developers on moving to the AWS cloud, help them build on the AWS cloud, provide them advice and architectural guidance on how they can build better. Especially now with the focus on developers, the idea is that you, the developer, whether you're in ops, in infrastructure, or an actual developer building the backend or the front end, you are the true builders on the AWS cloud. So enabling all of you with the right tooling, enabling all of you with the kind of patterns that are available out there, and then showing you guys how to build stuff better on AWS is my job. And I've been in this industry for over 16 years, and primarily I have been building products from the beginning. So if you ever want to reach out to me and just have a chat, I'm always available for calls and for coffee. Even though we're in COVID right now, you can still have a virtual tea tarik or a coffee, if you know what I mean. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Twitter. And Twitter is a little dormant right now, but I believe I may be doing some updates pretty soon on stuff I'm working on. So yeah. So today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We will be focusing on the reasons why we released Cloud Shell. I mean, we have been seeing that there has been asks for this, and we'll be jumping into some of those asks on why exactly we brought Cloud Shell into being over here. Also, we will be checking on what's Cloud Shell, what's in the box, what you as a user get out of this, what are the features, and some technical overview, and then moving forward from there. As part of the demo, I'll be showing you some of the nifty things you can do from the CLI, something you can already do already. But the idea is at least to whet your appetite, show you some of the works in this case. So the AWS CLI has been there from time immemorial. I remember from many years ago, and it's something that developers, ops, infrastructure, whoever connects with the AWS loves it, right? So they have been using the CLI for anything as simple as listing the buckets from S3, trying to get a list of all the files over there, and all the way to what can be done beyond that. So this is something that's been there for many years. So you can interact with services currently on the AWS console. If you're new to the AWS console or to the AWS concept itself of the cloud, you would be maybe interacting through the UI. Any folks who have been a couple of years using AWS would be interacting through the API or through the CLI. And they are using the CLI, especially tooling like this, for automation, debugging, inspection. If you have ever written a script for as a CI/CD pipeline for deploying an artifact from a CI server all the way to AWS, you would have definitely touched some CLI commands, whether it's S3 or whether it's code pipeline, or even directly accessing code deploy and then deploying things internally. And if you haven't, then that's a topic for next time. So do fill that up as part of the survey, which I'm going to share at the end. Also, other things we have heard over the years from developers has been about this thing of the console customers trying to access a lot of the services, and they always want to get access to these services, and they're not able to get it in time. And there are various reasons for that. By default, when the services are built in AWS, you also get the CLI as the get-go from the beginning, and the APIs. And then the UI also usually catches up from that. And so there's a lot of customers we have, especially from regulated industries, from industries that have a lot of security restrictions internally in place. They cannot install software on the local machines. So in this case, what happens is that the CLI is a problem over there because they can't install any of the CLI tooling internally on the machine. And when you put these data points together in terms of, okay, trying to get the best of what we can access from AWS and also trying to access the CLI from somewhere else other than your actual machine, then we actually have a potential problem. So you had customers who couldn't benefit from this. So beyond that, we also wanted to, we also get use cases. I know this because I get this a lot, where I just want to check something really quick on the AWS CLI. I just want to do it from the browser. And the great thing is I can actually do this from even a tablet, or if I'm a little bit finicky, I can do it over the phone if needed. And I just want to try out a new service, use Cloud Shell or the CLI directly to access that service and then build something out. And especially if there is a service available on CLI which allows you to have autocomplete as part of the service. So if you're learning the CLI for the first time, you want to know about the usual commands, you can just use that, and then it'll give you an autocomplete feature that allows you to learn a bit more about what options are there as part of the CLI. So this is where AWS Cloud Shell comes in, and this was introduced in reInvent 2020. So just last month, and the idea is that it's a one-click shell in your browser, which we'll see in a bit. And this is basically where you can just click on the browser. There would be an icon on top in the region that's supported. Currently, we support only 4 regions, but do expect it to come sooner to other regions because there is a lot of ask already for that. And you can access this. Currently, I'll be doing the test from North Virginia, and you can access it from the browser and then start just firing the commands. Initially, it takes some time to instantiate the instance itself for this to work, and after that, it'll just start working out of the box. So the AWS Cloud Shell for you as a user is a CLI, so you can interact with the AWS CLI directly. You can quickly try out documentation examples. If you see some scripts you just want to run, you can quickly do that. You can also upload files and download files through the CLI. I'll show that in a bit. You can also explore new AWS services. You also get persistence in the data. So if you persist data in the $home folder, you are able to keep that as long as your shell has been active for 120 days. And you also are able to just click once and open the command. I mean, one click open, that's a feature, right? Why not? I would take that anytime. What do you get out of the box when you access Cloud Shell is you have a lot of tooling already available. So from the CLIs, that is basically the AWS CLI, the SAM CLI, Elastic Beanstalk's CLI, and ECS. You also get tooling. So you can use Git, you can use Vim or Nano. You can install Emacs if needed, if you're an Emacs person. I tried Emacs a lot, it didn't work out for me. So Vim is what I always use. Then if you're into PowerShell, well, great news for you. PowerShell is available on Cloud Shell already. So PowerShell allows you to have a lot of the PowerShell commands run directly on a Unix platform. And if you're into prompts and trying to change the shell, like how I do usually on any of machine or VM I use, you can use ZSH. I usually call it that. I believe there is another way to pronounce it, and I'll show you how I've pimped up my my terminal right now in a bit. And any packages that are not there, like for example, right now by default the runtimes are Node and Python, but you can also do install. So you actually get root privileges out of the box. So you can run sudo yum install, and Cloud Shell is regularly patched and updated, so you don't have to worry too much about it not having the latest update. So just think of this as a fully managed instance of sorts, which you can actually use to access your resources on the cloud. So that's where it will persist. From a storage perspective, you have option to upload and download files up to 1 gigs in the home folder. And you also get a bit more memory outside of the home folder, but that's temporary, so that's ephemeral in that case. You are able to install the latest AWS CLI as and when you need to. and you have root access to install other software if needed, like I mentioned earlier. Another thing from a security perspective is that you get console credentials in the shell. So you can actually use IAM to control what can be accessed from Cloud Shell. The advantage in this is that you can actually create service control policies and then try to ensure that whoever has access to Cloud Shell can actually access certain things through this. Administrator and power user roles have Cloud Shell access by default. So definitely security is something that you want to keep in the forefront when you want to enable Cloud Shell access in your organization from before. How this works at a higher level is that, you know what, let's just go into the demo directly, then I'll show you the life cycle. So let me see if I can stop sharing this one and share my window. Present now, window, that's the one. Okay, I think you all should be seeing my window. I'm not sure if you are. So for folks who haven't seen the console before, this is what the console looks like. And by default, when you log into the AWS account, you would actually come to the management console, which is basically a home page with all the different services that are available out there. Now, if you're in the 4 supported regions, in my case, I'm in North Virginia, you will actually see that there is a Cloud Shell icon over here on top, which you can just click, and that would give you your Cloud Shell instance over here. The first time you run this, it takes a couple of minutes to spin up. But once you spin it up and the session's running, then you can just start using that as you need. So if you notice over here, I was actually, when I started the first time, it prepares my terminal, and then you can run any kind of commands that are needed in this case. So let me just see, I was talking about storage space. In this case, we have some storage already available. So you have 1 gig, which is for home, and then everything else that's out there, it's temporary. So all of this is ephemeral, so it can actually, once the session is removed, then you lose the data out of that. So in my case, I have been keeping this data since yesterday, and it's just been there for some time. So let me see if I can just do this. And this is all the different batch profiles that are available. And if you are into using different profiles like ZSH, then I can just move into that. And because you use ZSH, I've also installed OpenZSH in this case. And this is pretty awesome because there's a lot of cool themes that are available. I've actually done this for my Mac, so I use it on my terminal. I just got started over here. So definitely, I'm going to be adding more stuff in where I can add different things like clocks and other stuff. One of the coolest things I like about Unix is the kind of nifty tools and utilities that people have added over the years. So there's a very, very nice tool. I'm not sure if anyone has seen this. If anyone has seen Cowsay before. And, oh, okay. So it got deleted. Let me try that again. Right. See. All right. Okay. Great. Surprisingly enough, I had installed it yesterday. So let's see. My session got installed, and there you go. So you get a pretty awesome cow in your console who can actually say stuff to you. So that's a pretty nice thing. There's another service that's called Fortune, which you can also run, and then run these pretty interesting nifty tools. But that's it with the jokes over here. Let's start with some pretty interesting stuff. So I'll be running a couple of commands on the AWS CLI to give you an idea of what can be done on the AWS CLI. And this is usually because we get a lot of customer requests where sometimes they need to do certain things from the UI, which is not doable. You have the APIs in the CLI directly, but the UI may not support it sometimes. So for example, you get things like, okay, can I get what's my user account created as, right? So this is a command that's available that gets the current IAM user which I'm using, and we can use a library called JQ, which basically munges on JSON data that comes back, and this comes out of the box in Cloud Shell, and you can use this to actually parse the data and then get some certain fields out. So in my case, I'm just searching for what's the user account created, and in this case, I'm also checking, okay, what's the user account I'm actually using. And what this does is, for example, this has an option by default. You can disable this if needed. Any text that you copy from external sources, you'll notice that you'll get an extra carriage return in that. And this will actually ask before pasting multi-line code as an option, whether you want to add this or not. So because you may be copying a malicious script by mistake. In my case, it's okay. So I'll just paste this over here, and I'm able to get my user details over here in this case, which is my IAM user and the account alias. So let's get some more useful stuff out of this, right? I want to see what are the list of services I'm currently using in my account, right? So I'll just paste this, and if anyone's interested in getting these commands later, just reach out to me, and then I can share it across maybe on a gist on GitHub. That way, at least you'll be able to reach out to me. So yeah. So in this case, these are all the services I'm using. So a list of all the services that I've already started running something on, and because as my the nature of work is, I do a lot of demos for customers also. So a lot of services will be running around, which are usually not open at the same time for different customers. But let's go a bit more further. I want to actually see, okay, what is the list of services I'm using and how much it's costing me right now, right? So I can run this one. This set of command that gets the cost and usage according to, based on the time period for the last 1 month, and then it's able to paste out based on the actual dollar value. So in the last 1 month, this is the amount of value I'm getting. My RDS is super high, so it's $488. No guesses why that is, because I run a lot of demos over there. I also have a lot of compute running in this case, and EC2 of others in this case, but everything else is just pretty nominal in this case. So that's another way you can start using the CLI. And one of the best ways to learn the CLI is always to automate some of your routine scripts, whatever you do in AWS. So maybe you're doing some certain checks, you're maybe exporting some files for your team or for your manager to actually have a look at what's the current resource usage. And you can use the CLI and some other tools along with that to make that those kind of queries. So maybe from cost usage, I'll just jump a little bit into my EC2 instances. I just want to figure out, okay, what are the EC2 instances I'm running and what states they are in. And this one will actually give me empty. Now, the reason why it's giving me empty is because, and this is useful because I can show you, just because you're in North Virginia doesn't mean that you can't access stuff in Singapore. So in North Virginia right now, I have only 0 instances running, right? And that's because in this case, if you notice, my my AWS region by default is set to US East 1. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to set this to Singapore. And I'm going to run this again once more, and we'll see what happens. And boom, now I get all my EC2 instances from EC2 instances that are running according to type, aggregated from Singapore. So yeah, so now you can actually use CLI from Singapore. How awesome is that, right? Definitely, the only thing that's going to be missing for you is that you have to, you don't get this button, and also the fact that you have to, every time you start the shell and the session, you actually have to set the AWS region path. But once you set the AWS region variable, then you're good to go. And so you have a lot of queries that you can run in this case, and there's a lot of stuff that's there. What I'll do is, yeah, I mean, exactly, Nomad Spotter, you've mentioned about Azure PowerShell, and I believe the other cloud providers have this. Of course, I mean, as a cloud provider, AWS is providing this, and there are some nifty features that are being added as part of this, like when I mentioned about storage and other things, and I'll be showing a bit of the FAQ also at the end of what's being done. So kind of stuff like this, right? So I'll just add this last one over here. There's a lot of things we can do. I mean, I can sit the whole day over here and just do AWS CLI commands. This is basically what this is going to give me all the security groups that are being run. And the reason I'm showing this is because a lot of times what happens is when we run a lot of CloudFormation stack, and I'm assuming all of you are doing infrastructure as code in your environment. If you're not, that's something to reach out to me and talk about why you should be doing it. And you would notice that, okay, if you use a CloudFormation stack to set up your environment, if you delete it, everything gets deleted. But sometimes you may be spinning up certain environments like an EC2 instance with security group, and you would be actually maybe not deleting all of those back. So this is useful for actually just checking, okay, what are the security groups currently in use, so that you can then cross-check that against security groups that are not being used. And then you'll know, okay, there are some stuff that I'm not actually doing right now. So in a nutshell, this is basically how you would start going into the CLI. And there's a lot of other things you can start working at. You can look at the commands. You can spin up CloudFormation stacks. You can also use CDK as an option to interact with the environments by creating stack through the CDK construct. So a lot of cool things over there available. I would say definitely start having a look at this kind of things. Another use case which I'm currently exploring, and I've seen some folks I know from the community, especially from the data science community, who are looking at Cloud Shell, is to actually get data into S3 faster. So for example, if they want to test a machine learning model, they want to just munch some data together, they can actually just use curl on the CLI command over here and then directly move it. I mean, of course, the equivalent of this would be that you would run it from an EC2 instance. But yeah, I mean, you could just do it from Cloud Shell now. You don't have to manage an EC2 instance for that. So a lot of options available in this case. Definitely something you can start exploring right now if you have access to the AWS console, and you can have a check on that. So I'll just quickly switch back to my slide deck. And yeah, okay. The reason I wanted to show the demo first was because the next slide would actually make sense now. So how it actually works under the hood is that these shells are ephemeral, right? So you have an admin power user once it comes up. Yeah, okay. So you will actually have an admin or a power user who's using the web UI, and behind the scenes we use a service API, which is then accessing compute behind the scenes, a compute platform, and all of this runs within an isolated VPC. So basically, you have egress in the sense that you are able to access any resource from the internet, but you don't have ingress. So you cannot connect to any open port. There are no open ports on this compute at all. So there is no way for you to get into this compute instance within this VPC at all. And it uses secrets manager behind the scenes to actually control the secrets in this case. From a lifecycle perspective, the way how it works is that from the web app, it requests for the environment, and then if there's an environment already existing, it'll restore the state of that. It'll add the credentials, and then it connects. So it uses your credentials, which you use in the browser, which is cool because if you are, as a user, having certain policies attached to you, then those policies are also enabled on Cloud Shell itself. So use session is after that you can use a session, and then the state can be saved based on how long you use it. And then afterwards, the environment is released. Now, with data, like I mentioned, 120 days is how much your persistent storage is available in your home folder. But beyond that, you can actually, if you go in and then afterwards you access your Cloud Shell again, then you again get extended by another 120 days. So as long as you're accessing your Cloud Shell, then you're okay to keep at least 1 gigs of data over there. That's in the life cycle. So Cloud Shell networking is pretty straightforward, like I mentioned. So it runs in its own. It's an isolated VPC, and with no ingress, and it has public egress. You get how much storage do you get with IAM policy that is not allowed in that case, but you can actually get by default 1 gigs. What credentials do you use? So Cloud Shell uses the same credentials as you used when you log in. Yep, Ariful, you can call it a CLI as a service. I guess that's the best way to call it like that. How do I get the files to and from? So you can run scripts directly from within Cloud Shell. I didn't show that part, but there's a button called Actions on the top right. And this allows you to upload a file or download a file. When you upload or download a file, it takes it from $home. So $home is used for that. Then from a cost perspective, no additional charge for using Cloud Shell. The data transfer is charged at standard rates though. And you can control the colors in the fonts. There are basic themes available, but like I showed, I mean, if you just enable ZSH and then look at Oh My ZSH as a theming and plugin option, then you get a lot of things out of the box which you can do. And what I can do is in the near future in Facebook, I can actually share some of the scripts that I'll be using to customize my Cloud Shell. So you could always have a fancy show and tell kind of on how my Cloud Shell looks like, how yours does. How many sessions can I have open? You can have up to 5 region tabs open, and with up to 5 sessions to each region concurrently. So to get started, make sure you have the administrator power user role attached to your console login identity. Click the terminal icon on top. Try out ZSH. Turn on auto prompt for the AWS CLI. So this is the command which I was talking about. So this allows you to actually learn the CLI command. So it autocomplete will give you a drop-down option, and then you can actually select those options as part of when you're running the CLI. And you can always explore a new service. And I think the FB group, which Mo and Kaushik and all are managing right now, which is a great place to share all this, can actually start sharing some common scripts that people are using. This is how you do certain things. This is how I maintain my AWS environment and all that. Pretty nice place to actually share that. So do share that across over there. So with that, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward demo. There's no hard sell over here. I'm sure, I mean, ever since Cloud Shell has come, I've been using Cloud Shell only for my stuff. For basic demos, and I'm actually exploring it more so that I can do more CDK and try to use more infrastructure as code from the terminal. So definitely, I would want to see more folks using this and adopting it. So with that, I would like to thank you on that part. One last thing is that I'm sharing a QR code over here, and this QR code is useful because you can actually reach out to us through this. And the team which I'm working with, the DevX team, is actually now working with community folks trying to understand, okay, how we can help developers better. And also we have a program called the DevX Mentor that allows you to work as a community ambassador along with the DevX team, where you can actually talk on how you use AWS better. And we support you through different means. In that case, we have 2 folks from Malaysia already. Glad to have some more folks from Malaysia to support us and push Malaysia towards the cloud. So with that, I mean, thank you so much for having me today. Appreciate it. And let's see if we have any questions.
That's great. I think there's some in the chat. Do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. I can start from the top. Is it the same as desktop CLI? Is this the one where, I mean, yes, I mean, you are using the desktop CLI. In this case, you would install the CLI tool on your environment, local environment, whether it's a Mac or Windows or Linux, and then you would share your credentials on that, right? So you would create an IAM access key and a secret access key, and then put that here. In this case, the advantage is that you don't have to do any of that anymore. So there's no access keys creation involved anymore. Whatever user account you are using to log into your browser console and through the browser, that's what you would use actually behind the scenes to connect. So like I showed the life cycle in this case. Let me see if I can go back. Right. So in this case, the life cycle, this is actually fetching the secrets required for you to actually connect to your resources. So yeah, I mean, AWS CLI, but yeah, you can actually run it from the browser. And here's the thing, I mean, you can do this from an iPad now. So how cool is that, right? I do it. All right, next up, AWS was just missing Cloud Shell, good to know. Yep, Vineet, yep, it's been something that people have been asking for quite some time. I know other cloud providers have been doing it, so it's great to see it right now over here. And it actually adds to the kind of tooling now developers can use in this case. Right, so yes, it's the same, just an additional option to run commands. Okay, best use case would be if I don't have access to my laptop where I have my AWS CLI set up, but I want to run command from CLI. Yeah, true. I mean, that's there. Another thing you can understand from this is that you can actually keep some part of your session persistent in your home folder, right? So the fact is that even if you don't have your laptop anymore, you can pick it up and continue from anywhere. In fact, the day we announced PowerShell, we have someone from the community, Ian, I believe, who has actually released an alpha version of connecting to Cloud Shell through VS Code. I mean, so you're basically using VS Code to connect to the Cloud Shell through, I believe what he's using is using the AWS API. I've tried it, it didn't work for me, but it's something I need to check back on what else is not working. But he said it's alpha, but it's there on the VS Code marketplace. You can have a look at that. So that's useful. So the advantage is you use the Cloud Shell as a common place to jump in and then start using AWS. So that way, what happens is you can be moving between machines and devices, and it doesn't matter. You're still using the same Cloud Shell instance or session in this case. So CLI is a service. Does this Cloud Shell run in a default VPC? It's an isolated VPC. So like this diagram shows over here, it's a separate VPC. So it's not the default VPC, which you get when you actually spin up EC2 instances and don't specify anything on the VPC side. Can we create a simple Python app and expose it to the internet for testing using Cloud Shell? You can. So you can actually write a Python script over here, and you can maybe download a file. You can do that. So you can run requests, the library requests in Python, and then download it directly. So that should work. You shouldn't have a problem in this case, because I'm able to do curl. I'm able to download packages from outside. I actually downloaded a MP4 file from a service just yesterday because I wanted to test something on video analytics, and it just worked. I was able to do a curl and then pull it down. So that'll work. can it be used as a VPN into internal AWS resources? Yeah, exactly. So Michael, that's what I mentioned. There's a extension available, but it's an alpha. So it's something to look out for. So the idea is that, I mean, I would want to use VS Code and then use that as a common passageway to get in. So basically what you're talking about is a Bastion host. You could use this as a way to get in and access your AWS resources, yes. But I don't know how the extension works. I still need to figure out how to make it work at my end. But yeah.
Nice. Faz, we have 2 questions from the YouTube live. So
Okay.
asking you, is it possible to use different OS like Ubuntu? And the same guy asking, and can you have a bigger instance for this CLI thing?
Right. No. So instance size or instance type and the OS is not an option at the moment. So it's Amazon Linux 2 by default. So you're basically Amazon Linux 2 is a flavor of Red Hat. So you're using Red Hat. So you'll notice the commands over there are not sudo apt-get, it's sudo yum. And the other thing is you can't choose an instance type in this case. So that's not an option. But I guess the kind of power and the stuff you can do on the cloud, on the CLI, I think it's more than enough for whatever we're getting in this case. So yeah.
That's awesome because it's free. That's why we can't have a.
It's free, exactly. It's free and it's 1 gig. What more do you want?
Right. I like what Ariful said. Just like a CLI as a service. That's what exactly it is actually. I was waiting this service for so long, man. But maybe we need an editor like now, like a GCP. They have the editor where you can, like.
So you would use Cloud9. So you could use Cloud9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would use Cloud9 and then you could use that and use Cloud Shell separately. So yeah, I mean, so now you get all of these things together. And what I will be doing is over the next few weeks and months, I will be actually sharing more and more developer tooling in this case. So interested to hear more on what people are looking at. And we can actually work towards showing more tooling on that case to make life a bit easier for all of us. Yep.
Right. Cool. We have actually from Kaushik, good question. He's asking, is it like 1 gigabyte per user in each account?
It's 1 gig per region and an account. Per user is something I have not seen mentioned in the document. Good question. I'll have to check on whether it's at a user level.
That's a good question, yeah, because if you have 50 user in, for example, in that account, do they share that or?
Yeah, I doubt they would be sharing it, but yeah, definitely something I'll check on. Yeah, let me see. Thanks, Kaushik. I'll check on that. Yeah.
Awesome. Then I think that's it, Faz. Thank you so much for coming again. And again, like I said, guys, Faz is very helpful in the community, so you can reach him anytime. I think he is in our user group on Facebook. Are you, Faz? In Facebook, yeah. So I will share as well for people who's not joined our Facebook group yet. You can join us there, where we have some discussions as well, and you can put your question, and AWS guys and people from the community will help you answering these questions that you want to ask. Thank you so much, Faz. Thank you so much. Hopefully we will get you again soon as well.
Yep, so thanks, Mo.
Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, so before we jump to our second speaker, we have a hiring announcement for people who are planning to switch their career or they want to change. We have eCloud Valley. They are based in Kuala Lumpur. They are looking for a cloud developer, AWS cloud developer, and they want 5. So you can get your whole team and move out to eCloud Valley. If you can reach Sang to this email, Shung, hopefully I said the name correctly. You can send this UCV to this email and they will reach back to you. And I will share this announcement as well after the meetup on our AWS user group. So please, if you want to change your career or job, do reach them out. We have as well, we do this hiring announcement. So if you are hiring for your team and looking for people who works on AWS or DevOps in general, we always have here like some talented people who join our user group meetups. So you can as well scan this QR code, fill up the form, and we will share it like this announcement here in our next month in our next meetup. So do scan it if you want. I will just leave it for 3 seconds, and I will share it as well again on our AWS user group on the Facebook. again, this is our community, guys. So anyone can give a talk here, from like beginner topic to super advanced topic, anything you want related to AWS in general. You can just scan this code, fill up the form, and we will send you an email and tell you when we can host you in our AWS meetup. So please, guys, anything you are building, even if freelance or side project you are playing with some new service, you build something cool, or for your company, you can do that as well. So now let's jump to Abdullah. Abdullah had some technical difficulties at the beginning. Hopefully he just fixed it. And he will talk about Amplify Admin UI. And let's see what he was just like preparing for us for this
Thank
meetup.
you.
I will pass it to you from here, Abdullah.
Thank you.
And again, guys, you can just leave your comments on the chat, and Abdullah will pick it up at the end. Or for people who's watching us on YouTube, you can do the same on the YouTube Live.
Thank you, Mohammed. I will start with Amplify Admin UI. I had some technical difficulties earlier, and I shall actually cover these technical difficulties. So to start a bit, first about me, I'm an AWS Community Builder, and I'm a full stack software engineer at Servicerocket, and I like working with tools that make backends easier, and one of these are actually Amplify, and also serverless functions and serverless backends. You can find me on @abadev on Twitter. So what I'm going to cover here is intro to AWS Amplify itself, and then we'll talk about the Amplify Admin UI. And I'll do a demo in 2 parts due to the issues. And then I'll talk about the issues and caveats and some resources that you can follow on. So what is AWS Amplify? AWS has quite a lot of tools to deploy things, and you can do one thing in a lot of multiple ways. But AWS Amplify is one of these ways, and it's a set of tools that help you abstract few of AWS services. So it makes it easier to develop backends. It gives you libraries, and it gives you a console and a CLI. So if you split it in 3 parts, AWS Amplify, you have the develop part. And the develop helps you use authentication, data store, storage, as in S3, API, which is GraphQL, REST API, functions, serverless Lambda, and PubSub and notifications as well. You can use a CLI, which is a tool which we'll go through, and also the libraries, which are front-end libraries. The other part is to deliver, and at the moment they give you an opportunity to host static websites with built-in CI/CD and PR reviews as well. So it's actually interesting because we have a static app or that is not yet dynamic SSR, because that will be supported later, but you can easily integrate with GitHub, for example, and deploy these. And the last part is manage. And this is part of the new thing that we'll talk about: manage authentication, users and groups, and also data content. So what I'm talking about also is admin UI, and this is added today in develop and manage. But before we go to that, how does AWS Amplify compare to other services, serverless framework, Firebase? So this is very opinionated, and so don't give me a lot of criticism here, but in my opinion, Service Framework is actually a very solid framework to use for Service Lambda. However, if you do have front ends mainly, and you have like a React app or even mobile apps, it would work better with serverless with Amplify, because they do have better support for this. Firebase is Google equivalent to this. It's on Google side. But however, Amplify gives you opportunity to go with RDS or even DynamoDB. It has data store. The data store has offline capabilities and also sync, which gives it a bit of an edge compared to Firebase. So we talked about the Amplify CLI and how you do with that. It's just you install it globally, and it's AWS Amplify CLI, and then you configure it with your account. And then really working with it is actually amplify init and then amplify add category and then you amplify push. Okay, this sounds amplify a lot, but what does it mean? So if you want to add authentication to your app, you just say amplify add auth and then amplify push. And that's actually what it does. It will configure a user pool in Cognito and configure your user login. And with the library, which I'll show you later, you can actually just use the default login page, and you actually did nothing much to configure. And Cognito is one of the hard services in AWS to configure from scratch. So let's come to Amplify Admin UI. So it's a UI to easily configure your models and add authentication. It also lets you manage content. So this is the new part, manage content and manage users. But why is this important? Because actually they want to give it away for non-AWS users who don't have AWS accounts, such as product managers or editors. They can come and manage this content and users. They even let you start with a sandbox environment to test it out without an AWS account. It has limited functionality, but we'll cover this. So this is how it looks like, the admin UI. And where you have on the sidebar, you have manage for content and user management, and you also have the setup. We're going to work with data authentication in the demo. So let's move to the demo. I'm going to switch screen sharing here to a casted. This is a pre-recorded video. The reason is it takes time to do everything in one go. Hello and welcome to this demo. So in this demo, I already have a small front-end app made in React where we're going to have an art gallery where users can upload an image and then view them, and they can also have their collection private for them. So you can also see an image individually, or you can also sort by category. So one category can have more than one image. Right now, to see the collection or to add, we have to log in, but we haven't configured any backend, and this is actually images from my local disk. So to start with admin UI, from the docs, we can see that we can start in a sandbox without an AWS account, or we launch the AWS Amplify console from our AWS account. Starting in a sandbox as well will also show you a feature to start with. So you can create an app backend here or host the web app. So to create an app backend within the sandbox environment, you can choose one feature to start with, data or authentication or file storage. As we're going to go through all of these when we connect to our AWS account, I'll just directly start with the AWS Amplify in my account. So closing the sandbox environment, and we will click on Launch Amplify Console. And then we can initialize our app here. So I'll call this art demo. And it will start to create this admin UI and a backend configuration, which we can then pull to our app. While that happens, we can go through the code a bit. So mainly we will start with app.js. And I've commented out quite a few stuff while I was trying to make this work with Amplify, and so we will go through each of these. But basically there's a few components here. App.js, which is the main one that has the routing. And then we have art collection, which is the main one. We can see all of the art, and by category, which will then go to this component. And art piece component, so we just see one image, and also new art, which is the creation form. Now that this environment has been finished, we can actually open this admin UI. So starting in the admin UI console, we can see the sidebar where we can have manage for content and user management, and we can also set up data, authentication, functions, storage, and other interesting stuff. We also have here local setup instructions, which can tell us what we can do. But before we do that, let's start creating a model. So in the data model, you can actually get a visualization tool where we can create a table, a model. And for us, we were going to create a category first, because there's a few categories that we can put our art in. And the category will have, I put a key and a display name. And then we can also add another model, which is the art itself. And for this one, we're going to have name, which is a string, and we have a description. And we will also have owner and image link. It's actually going to be the image key. We'll see that in a bit when we add the storage. And we also have category. Actually, we don't need to add category here because this is going to be a relationship where one category can have, it should be the other way here, one category can have many art. So it'll be a relationship like this, which you can define from the UI as well. So now you can see that category ID has been added as a relationship source and art. So this should be all for our data modeling. And we can choose the authorization mode in a bit when Cognito user pool, but since we haven't done that yet, since we haven't set up authentication, we'll do this in a bit. So let's save and deploy. So deploying it will take a while, and we can see the progress here. Now that it finished deploying the API, we can get the instructions to how to pull the project locally and how we can start integrating the API. But before we do that, let's add authentication as well. So there's no need to have email. I'm just going to use username for authentication here. And we can use username for authentication, and that's it. And save and deploy. So this will deploy a Cognito user pool for us, and we'll set it up with also the data back again to have the authentication ready. All right, our authorization is ready, and we can pull this. But also before we do it again, I just realized I should have done authentication first, then data models, because I want to change the authorization mode to use Cognito user pool, where we can define some rules by user on who can see the data, especially for art. So here I would not like to add a new rule for art, and that owners can actually create, read, update, and delete. And a new rule for any signed in users, they can just read. And we'll do the same for category. For category, we only want people who are signed in to just read. As for creating the category, we will be doing it ourselves from the category user content management here. So I'll have to wait again for this to be deployed, because I should have done this to save one deployment, but it's okay. So great, the authentication has been deployed, and also the data model with the authentication rules have also been deployed, and we've got the new rules. As you can see here, the deployment status, we can pull this, and it also gives us interesting snippets of code to tell us how to integrate data store within our code. So to save data, for example, save a new art, we can just call datastore.save. And we can also see rules for category, and also depending on the CRUD operation that we're going to do, such as update or query. So we're going to do this in a bit. Similar with authentication, we'll have to see the docs. The last part of backend we want to integrate is storage, because there are some photos that we need to upload per item. However, this can only be done through the CLI at the moment. I'm not sure if this will be added in the backend in the future. But before we proceed and pull this everything, let's just go to manage a content, because I actually want to create a couple of categories so that we can upload any art. So we're gonna select category. Let me just refresh this. So right now we can create category, and I'm gonna create one category here. You can call it paintings, with a display of painting. And let's just create one more, abstract. And that's it. So let's proceed and pull our data. So this is where my front end code is, and I'll just paste the code. So once we do that, it will actually initialize the Amplify project locally, and will give us a questionnaire to fill so that it can know how to deal with our code base. First thing, we'll have to log in. And it's a simple click. So I'm gonna choose my editor, which is code, and the code is JavaScript. So Amplify supports different frameworks, of course, but our app is in React, so I'm going to choose this one, and I'm just going to go with the defaults for the rest. So it will actually create a GraphQL schema based on the data model that we've created. And do I plan on modifying? Yes, because I plan to add storage from here, from my CLI. And now it will just sync with the backend to have the different configuration also in my code base. So we can actually check what we've deployed by doing amplify status. And we can see that we have API auth and only. So let's add actually amplify storage. So we can add it as well, and we go adding everything in the code. So we'll get some questions such as what we want to do, and I want to add it's for images. And please provide a friendly name for your resource. Let's go with the default, and this will be the default bucket name. I'm okay with that. Who should have access? Auth and guest users. And what kind of access do you want for authenticated users? I want them to be able to read, do everything. And guest users should only be able to read. Do you want to add a Lambda trigger? Not at the moment. So at the moment, since we configured storage, let's just push this to the backend. And this will create the S3 bucket and also configure the other stuff that we will need. While it does that, let's go back to the Amplify admin, and we can see what we need to do, proceed in the docs, but mainly the next steps we want to do in the code. So I will stop the demo here, and I'll continue without it and reshare my screen. So what happened is, well, I'll try and finish actually part of the demo because there was only the integration of the code. The reason what happened, why I stopped, was there was quite a lot of problems with syncing from the data store to my local, and sometimes it takes time. But what I wanted to talk mainly is while we're initializing that Amplify, so the code, what it does is that basically it will create an Amplify folder, which is here. And where's the Amplify folder? I'm opening the wrong project. Well, I think I deleted it because I was trying to fix it earlier. Mainly, there is an Amplify folder that has the configuration, and there's also another file called AWS exports.js. This has actually the variables that you need to deploy your front end, so it knows how to connect to the backend. And in terms of code integration, since you saw that the data store, so for example, if I was creating new art, which is the form, so it's just a normal, simple form, and I'm using state. So I just pull in storage from AWS Amplify and data store from the AWS Amplify data store. And then what I do is I simply call AWS storage dot put. So this one is for storage, which will put the image in S3 bucket. I give it an ID and I pass in the file, and that's it. That's the only thing that will upload the image for me. After that, I get the key and I add it to the image part when I save the image. And saving the image is quite simple as well. Data store.save, and I just pass in the image. You might ask, where is this new art coming from? This art object is actually coming from models. These models also get pre-generated by the code, by Amplify CLI when you run it. And this is actually pulling the data that we have configured in Admin UI. So it's simple as that. In terms of authentication as well, it's actually the very simple part. So in app.js, authentication, you can just bring in auth from AWS Amplify, and I would bring on with authenticator from AWS Amplify UI React. And I just use this component and wrap in my app here with authenticator app. And that's it. And then this will, once I run the code, it actually gives me immediately a login page. So the demo didn't work, but I do have a finished example here. And I already deployed this on Amplify. So if I log out, this is how I get immediately the first login page. Let's just hope it works again. Yeah. So this one works fine because it actually pulls the data that we have in Amplify Admin, which is here. So this is the content that I have, and I have these images and categories. These are the categories that I've added earlier and some images that I've uploaded. What my locals had some issues with syncing. When I would create a category here, it wouldn't actually sync back to my local. Sometimes it takes time, so maybe that's why my demo failed. Should have probably anticipated this. But this concludes the demo, so I can move on. So issues to be aware of when using Amplify Admin. I mean, this is from my experience over using it this week. So there's sync issues, which I've mentioned. Actually, I've also seen some couple of GitHub issues of people having the same issue. There is the customization of auth is a slight headache for me. I don't have the same all of functionality from Admin UI compared when I do it through the CLI or when I do Cognito by myself. And it's slightly more complex to customize custom auth, but you can use the custom. What I mean by that is if you actually noticed, my whole app just became behind a login page, but I want to have some private and public pages, not everything private. This is it needs a bit work, but you can do it. There's some manual APIs for that. And also dynamic routing. You might actually ask, why didn't I do this in Next.js and use React? Because this is image and Next.js has nice image optimization. They don't support yet dynamic routing in SSR for hosting. If you're going to host it, you can actually still do it, but you're going to have to host it somewhere else through serverless, normal Lambda on Edge, on CloudFront, I mean. My last tip, if it doesn't work, wait, refresh your browser and push your project, update your CLI, and ask at the Discord. In the defense of Amplify, I might give them actually a bit of credit, is that they do have, where is it? Where did it disappear? Okay, here it is. Ah, done, disappeared. Never mind. Is that they do mention it's beta for content update. So this is something that is still new. It's 2 months old. It was only released in reInvent. So, but Amplify still works perfectly if you use the CLI, if you use AppSync. So I'm not here to discredit using it. Give it a try. And I do want you to try some resources, such as the docs, Discord community. And you can find also a list of curated resources from Nader Dabbit, who's an awesome developer advocate for the Amplify and for front-end technologies. And finally, there are some still remaining reInvent sessions you can watch on demand, which are available to end of January. These are 3 sessions that I've noted that are actually quite interesting. They talk about AWS Amplify Admin specifically. I can share the links in the chat in a bit. And thank you. This was a bit of a messed up demo, but I hope this is good enough. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to hear them.
Thank you so much. I enjoy your talks like always. You really give a clear explanation, actually. I really enjoyed it. And it's happened, man, all the time when you want to run a demo. Shit happens. Just I have a question, like now I know now it's still in beta and all these things, but when do you recommend people to start using Amplify UI, or when to use like the traditional way in building things?
AWS Amplify is already being used by a lot of people, and I remember also, I think it was Abdullah. He gave
2 times
about this 2 years ago. So what my talk was more targeting on how to use the admin UI, which is new. So it was a bit of an adventurous talk there with some demo. Amplify itself is okay, it's stable. There are some bugs sometimes that happen, but that happens in every AWS service. Admin UI is, I think AWS is trying to sort of bring people outside of AWS who are used to use Firebase, because if you want to prototype something, you immediately think Firebase, not AWS. AWS has a lot of complexity. But that's what they want to do, is to make things simpler. I don't know, maybe soon. I mean, the content management is still in beta. You can only edit content from there by Markdown. But if you have images, which most of them have, how would you edit that? And actually, it's the reason why my demo has images, because I wanted to test the limitations here. And but I ended up facing a different limitation with data sync. So data store basically is like this library that gets on your device and uses IndexedDB if you're using web browser. So it supports offline capabilities and also sync. I couldn't get to demo the immediate sync, but basically if you have a lot of devices open and I push a new item, it will appear in these devices. It's like a subscription. And that's a nice feature. And it should work fine, I guess, but not with the admin UI yet.
Right. And like you said, they still embed, so I think they will improve on it with sometimes, right?
Yes.
Cool. I really enjoyed it. Guys, any question for Abdullah? You can just unmute yourself and ask him directly, or you can just leave the question in the chat if you have any question related to his demo or anything.
I do want to add that the front-end app that I have, I'm actually planning, I'll release it as a starter. I just need to iron a couple of things. So if you want to use it, I'll share the link at some point later from my GitHub. You can use it. I'll put some instructions as well how to test it yourself. There are other starters though for Admin UI. There are some who have, but there's not much yet. But for Amplify, there's quite a lot, and I will share this link now from the presentation in the chat for awesome curated resources from around the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abdullah. And I think we should see more demo on YouTube. You should start your own channel now for this kind of cool stuff. So yeah, man, hopefully I will see you again soon in this meetup. This is the second time I think we have you in the last two months, right? So I'm really looking forward to have you more as well.
Glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. Do we have AWS user group? Oh, okay. Channel for, okay. I think we are good then. Thank you so much, Abdullah. And hopefully you stay. We have a networking session after this meetup where we usually just sit for 10 minutes together and ask questions, so we can ask Abdullah more questions, or Faz, or each other as well. So thanks again. Really enjoyed it. Was perfect explanation of the Amplify UI. Let me just share my screen again. Okay, so before we close our meetup, if I would really appreciate if you guys can just scan this QR code and fill the form where you give us a feedback, what do you like, what you don't like, and give feedback on our session today for the speaker, so we can improve in the future. And if you have new ideas to improve this community, you can just leave it there and we will check that out. Another thing, you can follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook group is the biggest, so if you are coming from LinkedIn or Meetup, you can follow us on Facebook. YouTube, we just created recently through the MCO a YouTube channel, which Abdul helping us doing all this streaming to YouTube. So thanks to him helping us with doing all this live on YouTube. And we have now actually 73 subscribers, so we are getting some fans for our AWS user group. And we are on Meetup as well, where we publish our meetups where you can register. And we are on LinkedIn. Just Kaushik recently created this LinkedIn. We are not that active yet, but hopefully soon we'll be active. One thing I want to share as well, that next meetup we have Kaushik, that he will give a talk about, damn it, I just forgot to download this. Yeah, so we have Kaushik for the next meetup. He will talk about Aurora Serverless version 2, which is this, they just introduced it in the reInvent recently, right? So he will give a talk about that. And our second speaker, I'm trying to get his topic. His Bilal used to work here in Malaysia, and just recently he went to Netherlands, and he wants to share with us how do they use AWS in Europe, and what do they do of the cool stuff over there. So our next meetup will be on the 18th of February next month. So hopefully I will see you guys again there. And I see a lot of new faces today. Really happy for that. And let's have now a networking session. So we will stop the live stream on YouTube and we can just hang out all together, talk about anything, music, cloud, anything we want. Okay, thank you everyone. And hopefully Abdul now will just stop the streaming on YouTube. And I think we are good to go.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. So, guys, if for people who stay here, you can just, if you want, share your camera and just like we have a chat with each other. We have Faz, we have Abdurrahman. Man, it's been so long I didn't see you. Abdurrahman usually come to the on-site meetups where we have